He stole $60 million from elderly Americans. The FBI's 3-year digital manhunt ends here. Vincent Chen had the perfect resume for Silicon Valley success. Mid-graduate, senior software engineer at 3 major tech companies. Specialist in financial systems architecture. But federal investigators would discover that Chen had weaponized his elite programming skills against America's most vulnerable citizens. Starting in 2018, Chen orchestrated one of the most predatory wire fraud schemes the FBI had ever encountered. Using a network of shell companies and fake investment platforms, he deliberately targeted elderly Americans with promises of high-return retirement investments. His websites looked completely legitimate. Professional graphics, fabricated testimonials, even fake regulatory credentials designed to deceive seniors. The scheme was devastatingly effective because Chen understood his victims' vulnerabilities. His automated systems would identify elderly targets through data mining, then flood them with convincing investment opportunities. Once victims transferred their life savings, the money would vanish through a complex web of international wire transfers that Chen had programmed to execute automatically. By early 2022, federal agents had documented losses exceeding $47 million. Hundreds of elderly victims had lost their retirement funds, their children's inheritance, their security in their final years. Dorothy Martinez, 78, lost her entire $340,000 retirement account. William Thompson, 82nd, lost the $180,000 he'd saved to leave his grandchildren. The FBI's cyber division classified Chen as a priority target. His technical sophistication made him incredibly dangerous. He could steal millions more with a few keystrokes while his victims suffered in poverty. Agent Sarah Kim, leading the investigation, would later testify that Chen represented the worst kind of cybercriminal. Highly educated, technically brilliant, and utterly ruthless in exploiting elderly Americans' trust. In March 2022, federal prosecutors issued an arrest warrant for Vincent Chen on charges of wire fraud, money laundering, and elder abuse conspiracy. The maximum penalty, 25 years in federal prison. But when agents arrived at his San Francisco apartment to make the arrest, they discovered that the wire transfer wizard had vanished without a trace. On March 15, 2022, FBI agents surrounded Vincent Chen's luxury apartment building in San Francisco's Soma district. They had synchronized the raid perfectly. Cyber division tracking his digital activity, physical surveillance confirming his presence just hours earlier. But when they breached his apartment at 6 a.m., they found only empty rooms and a wiped laptop sitting mockingly on the kitchen counter. Chen had vanished like a ghost in the machine he'd mastered so well. Security footage from the building's garage showed his Tesla Model S departing at 3:47 a.m. just 2 hours and 13 minutes before the FBI arrived. He had somehow detected the closing net and executed what investigators would later call a nearly perfect digital disappearance. The apartment revealed the methodical planning of a dangerous predator preparing his escape. Every hard drive had been professionally wiped. His financial accounts showed a final flurry of wire transfers in the 48 hours before he fled. Money flowing to cryptocurrency exchanges and offshore accounts that immediately went dormant. Even his smartphone had been left behind, factory reset and useless to investigators. FBI's cyber forensics team spent 3 weeks analyzing Chen's digital footprints, but found themselves chasing shadows. He had used his programming expertise to scrub his online presence so thoroughly that even deleted files had been overwritten multiple times. The man who had stolen $47 million from elderly Americans had apparently invested significant resources in planning his own vanishing act. International flight records revealed Chen's escape route, a one-way ticket to Bangkok departing San Francisco International at 11:30 p.m. on March 14th. By the time federal agents traced the booking, Chen had already had a 12-hour head start and was somewhere over the Pacific Ocean, leaving devastated victims behind. Agent Kim immediately coordinated with Interpol and Thai authorities, but Chen had chosen his destination wisely. Thailand's banking privacy laws, complex extradition procedures, and massive expatriate population made it an ideal hiding place for international fugitives. The wire transfer wizard had disappeared into Southeast Asia's digital underground, but the FBI's pursuit was just beginning. The FBI Cyber Division deployed a 12-agent task force dedicated exclusively to finding Vincent Chen. With a budget exceeding $2.3 million and partnerships with law enforcement agencies across 6 countries, the manhunt represented one of the most intensive cyber-criminal pursuits in Bureau history. The message was clear: no one steals from elderly Americans and escapes justice. For 3 years, federal agents followed digital breadcrumbs across Southeast Asia's interconnected banking systems. Chen was dangerous precisely because he understood that his technical skills were both his greatest weapon and his most vulnerable weakness. He had to use technology to survive, but every digital transaction left potential fingerprints that FBI analysts could follow. The first breakthrough came 18 months into the hunt. Banking algorithms detected a wire transfer pattern in Singapore that matched Chen's previous methodology: small amounts, multiple accounts, specific timing sequences that bore his digital signature. Agents coordinated with Singapore's Financial Crimes Unit, racing to trace the transactions before Chen could cover his tracks. They missed him by 6 hours. Surveillance footage from a Marina Bay luxury hotel showed a man matching Chen's description checking out at 4 a.m., just as investigators were obtaining court orders to freeze his accounts. He had somehow detected the closing net again, vanishing with nearly $2 million in stolen cryptocurrencies. A similar pattern repeated 8 months later in Manila. Filipino banking authorities flagged suspicious transactions that led agents to an upscale condominium in Makati City. This time they moved faster, surrounding the building within 4 hours of detecting the digital trail. But Chen's apartment was empty, except for a still-warm laptop and encrypted files that cyber analysts would spend weeks trying to crack. Agent Kim's team began to understand the quarry's deadly psychology. Chen was addicted to the game. He could have disappeared completely into rural Asia, but his predatory instincts demanded that he continue targeting elderly victims. Each theft was both a crime and a taunt, proof that he believed himself beyond the reach of American justice. But persistence was the Bureau's greatest weapon. As months became years, the task force refused to abandon the hundreds of elderly victims who deserved justice. They analyzed every transaction, every digital shadow, every fragment of code Chen left behind. The wire transfer wizard was still out there, still stealing, and eventually, he would make his final mistake. On September 12, 2025, everything changed. An artificial intelligence system monitoring international banking patterns detected something unusual in Thailand's financial networks. A series of microtransactions that bore the unmistakable signature of Vincent Chen's predatory programming style. The breakthrough came from an unexpected technological advantage. AI algorithms designed to detect money laundering had learned to recognize individual coding patterns like digital fingerprints. Chen's sophisticated theft programs contained subtle programming quirks, specific variable names, unique algorithmic approaches, distinctive error handling routines that were as identifiable as his physical DNA. Within 6 hours of the AI alert, FBI cyber analysts had confirmed what they'd been hunting for 3 years and 5 months. The wire transfer wizard was operating from Bangkok, running a new scheme targeting retirement accounts across Australia and New Zealand. His latest theft network had already stolen over $8 million in just 2 months, devastating dozens more elderly victims. Agent Kim immediately coordinated with Thai authorities and the FBI's legal attaché in Bangkok. But this time, they had a crucial tactical advantage. Chen didn't know he'd been detected. The AI system had identified his operation through pattern recognition, not through any investigation that might have triggered his sophisticated early warning systems. Thai police surveillance teams positioned themselves around 3 potential locations where the digital fingerprint suggested Chen might be operating. Banking records indicated he was using a high-end condominium in Bangkok's Sukhumvit district as his base, the same neighborhood where dozens of international fugitives had hidden over the years. For 72 hours, investigators maintained silent observation, while cyber teams continued tracking Chen's digital activities in real time. They watched him through thermal imaging as he worked late into the night, his multiple computer screens glowing in the darkness of his luxury apartment. He was still stealing, still programming, still preying on elderly victims worldwide. The net was finally tightening around Vincent Chen. After 41 months of relentless pursuit, covering 6 countries and consuming thousands of investigative hours, federal agents had their target in sight. The wire transfer wizard's 3-year run was about to end. On September 15th, Agent Kim gave the final order to Thai authorities: execute the arrest warrant. Justice for hundreds of elderly victims was finally within reach. At 5:47 a.m. on September 16, 2025, Thai police and FBI agents surrounded the luxury condominium complex in Bangkok's Thonglor district. Vincent Chen was still asleep when tactical officers breached his apartment door, ending a manhunt that had consumed exactly 3 years, 5 months, and 1 day. The wire transfer wizard's shock was complete and satisfying to witness. For over 3 years, he had stayed ahead of international law enforcement through technical brilliance and paranoid security measures. But he had finally been undone by the same artificial intelligence algorithms that he had once helped develop during his legitimate career in Silicon Valley. Inside Chen's apartment, investigators discovered the full scope of his ongoing criminal enterprise. 6 high-end computers were running automated theft programs targeting retirement accounts across 4 continents. Bank records showed he had stolen an additional $12.4 million since fleeing the United States, bringing his total theft to nearly $60 million from over 800 elderly victims. Chen's extradition to the United States took 14 months of legal proceedings, but Thai courts ultimately sided with American prosecutors. On November 3, 2026, he was transported under heavy federal security to San Francisco to face justice for his crimes against elderly Americans. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Federal prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence of Chen's sophisticated fraud schemes, while victim after victim testified about losing their life savings to his automated theft programs. Dorothy Martinez, now 82, told the court how Chen's crimes had forced her to move in with her daughter and abandon her dreams of traveling and retirement. On February 14, 2027, Vincent Chen was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. Judge Patricia Wong called his crimes a calculated assault on America's most vulnerable citizens and ordered him to pay full restitution to his victims. Today, Chen serves his sentence at ADX Florence, the Supermax federal prison in Colorado where he belongs. FBI asset forfeiture teams recovered approximately $38 million from his hidden accounts, providing partial restitution to hundreds of elderly victims. Agent Kim, who led the investigation from beginning to end, says the case proved that no cyber criminal, no matter how technically sophisticated, can ultimately escape American justice. The wire transfer wizard's 4-year run of freedom had finally ended exactly where it should, behind bars with his victims receiving the justice they deserved.